The man who may be said to have started it all, William Gibson. The same William Gibson whose fanciful musings are today exerting a profound influence, not only on a single subculture, but on society at large. This same William Gibson is one of the least technical people imaginable. He has a cozy, modest home in Vancouver and wrote his novels on a manual typewriter.
Some of my readers assume that I do my writing on something that looks like a stealth bomber with the serial numbers filed off. But in fact, I use a very primitive, obsolete computer, which I only got about 2 years ago. And before that, I wrote on a manual typewriter. And when I started writing this stuff, I had never touched a computer. And I think it gave me a certain strange edge in terms of imagination, in that I wasn't really hindered by what was possible. But when I finally went out and bought my little Apple computer and I got it home and set it up and turned it on, and it made this weird noise, this kind of grinding sound, and I called the man up very angrily and said, "Look, when I try to do this, it goes rah, rah." And he said, "Sir, that's the disk drive." And I said, "What's that?" And he explained it to me, and as he explained it to me, I sort of lost something that I'd had. I somehow thought that they were these silent, crystalline engines that you know, I hadn't really thought about how they worked. And then I realized it was this piece of clumsy Victorian technology spinning a little plastic record around. And I sort of went, oh, you know, and at that point I sort of lost something. And I was signing books in San Francisco at a bookstore downtown last year, and two guys came roared up on motorcycles, totally in black leather, with very short hair, and they kind of came marching into the store, and as they got closer to the table, I could see the disappointment growing on their faces as they realized that, yes, in fact, that's him. And they sort of looked at me very sadly, and one of them got out his beat-up copy of the book and said, "Well, you can sign it anyway."
Gibson is no computer expert, certainly not a cyberpunk. He is a novelist, a visionary, an expert only in ideas themselves. What is unusual, what is astonishing, is that he has come to influence scientific research itself. At last count, there were 8 different companies and academic institutions engaged in realizing Gibson's central concept, the social time bomb called cyberspace.
Jack into the Matrix.
In Gibson's novels, console cowboys are directly linked to their computers, jacked in. Through electrodes to the central nervous system, cyberspace becomes perceptible. Cyberspace is defined as a consensual hallucination. The abstraction of databases become visible in the matrix, as it is also called, as geometric, architectural shapes, images that have reality only in the brain of the cognitor. The computer jockey can use programs to move his disembodied consciousness around in cyberspace. For the legitimate user, this is a way of doing their daily work. Millions of employees moving about in cyberspace, laboring in vast fields of information. These databases are guarded by dangerous protective fields known by the acronym ICE. The console cowboy's goal is to penetrate this ICE with viruses and attack programs to gain access to the information the base contains. This is the real cyberspace as it is today, better known as virtual reality. These people seemingly playing an elaborate game of blind man's bluff are in fact spending time in another universe, a cybernetic universe where anything is possible. In cyberspace, the individual sensorium becomes part of the computer. The illusion created is that of actually inhabiting a computer-generated world.
The concept of cyberspace. Jack into the Matrix.
It's around you, you're in it. It's almost this embryonic kind of information gel.
California's NASA Ames Research Center was one of the first labs to experiment with virtual reality.
This technology is part of what we call the Virtual Environment Workstation. The idea at Ames over the past 5 years has been to develop a very human-matched interface, a way to literally get inside images, to interact with them, to walk around inside them, to give very natural commands to the host computer, and for a number of different applications. The foundation of the virtual workstation is this helmet-mounted display. In the front package here are two small TV screens, one for each eye. The effect is that you get a very strong stereoscopic image. You view that image through two very wide-angle optics. Our idea was to try to match human field of view as much as possible. This gives us about a 120-degree angle of view. Also on top of the stock is a magnetic sensor device that tells you, the system, where you are within the virtual space. The rest of the things in the headset are a microphone, so you can basically give verbal commands, connected speech commands to the host computer as you would, as if you were talking to another person. And the headphones give auditory feedback. We use a couple different kinds of sound cueing. One is just straight from a synthesizer, so that, for example, as you touch a virtual object, you get a contact cue or proximity cues as you get nearer and farther. Or the second level is 3D sound cueing. With a piece of technology that we built called the Convolvatron, you can actually hear the sounds coming from outside your head at a discrete distance and location. And because of the tracker, we can also make the sound stay there. If you move your head, the sound actually stays where it's supposed to be. So virtual objects can act as real sound sources as they would in the real world, for example. Another piece of the virtual workstation is what we call a data glove. And the glove is instrumented with fiber optic sensors so that as you bend your fingers, a computer-generated model of your hand that's in the virtual environment is controlled by it. You don't see your real hand because you're completely enclosed. So when you reach out, move your fingers, your virtual hand will mimic that, and you can pick up objects. And we've made software so that you can make different kinds of gestures, kind of like American Sign Language. For example, if I make a gesture like this, it will fly my viewpoint through that virtual space.
NASA may use virtual reality to allow a technician to work on a space station without leaving Earth. In virtual reality, a person has the illusion that they are doing the work themselves, even when they are a million miles away.
Flying enabled.
Starting from his office, the technician may fly through space to the station where he might activate other space instruments or repair them. One may wonder how Gibson, a self-admitted computer illiterate, foresaw this technology.
But what he's described is really, I think it's a really good thing to shoot for. The kind of cyberspace that he describes is really something that will be very helpful for all of us to be involved in.
This is a virtual world created by VPL Research. They are working on making virtual reality a new and dynamic means of communication. It is possible to call a friend on the other end of the world by computer, much as a common modem device is used today. The two agree on a virtual meeting place and are able to see and interact with each other in some alternate universe, or perhaps a simulacrum of a real place. There, they may explore this new world, work together, play golf, or do virtually anything the two might enjoy together. Not surprisingly, a doctorate was just granted for a thesis on the potential of virtual sex. The most difficult part of this process might be to agree on a meeting place or decide how to appear when there. Entering virtual reality means controlling one's appearance as well. Today, a beautiful woman, tomorrow a tough punk, the next day a lobster. This little girl chose to be a teapot.
Here is my spout. When you tip me over, tea comes out. So tip me over and pour me out. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When you tip me over, tea comes out. So tip me over and pour me out.
If one wishes to appear as more than just one's hand or a program-generated figure, one must wear the data suit. The data suit also allows for real-time animation, the dream of the cartoonist restricted to individual cell animation.
Let's suppose 10 years from now, you have a special pair of goggles and a special glove in your house. You put them on, and suddenly you experience yourself to be in a different room. You're not in your living room anymore. You're in a different room. This different room has similar dimensions, but it's altered. It has, for one thing, a set of shelves along one wall, and in all those shelves are little sort of fish bowls. But if you look in the fish bowls, there aren't fish. Instead, there's little miniature people walking around, and they're all having different adventures. Some of them are clustered around a model of a bridge and are working on it. Another group of them are all playing baseball. There's like little people running around. And another group of them are working in a large field that has that looks like a statistical field with many points, and they're running around on it. And so what you can do is you can simply place your hand or your head into any one of those fish bowls, and suddenly you are in that scene with those people. And one of them might turn out to be for work, another might be for play, and another one might be for education.
Within 10 or 15 years, when you wake up in the morning, you will get dressed for work. You won't go to work. You put on a computer suit, and you flip down your television, your eye goggles, and you can be in Tokyo. You can be in Paris. You can talk to your friend in Tokyo and agree to meet on the beach in Hawaii. What kind of Hawaii you got? You'll be dialing and you'll be looking at your file of Hawaii. Oh, she's got a better one. Okay. We will not leave home with our bodies to work. Our brains will be moving around. The idea that you would strap your body in a car and drive 5 miles to work, polluting the atmosphere, you'll be doing it at home. The idea that you'll strap your body in a horrible, noxious airplane spewing out toxic waste, and for 12 hours go to Tokyo to have a meeting, which you could have much more comfortably sitting in your home with the person over there.
However virtual reality will influence our future, be it to liberate and provide us with pleasure or to produce a generation even more enslaved to a machine that allows them to completely escape from reality, the new cyberpunk generation couldn't be more eager to acquire this technology.
The Gibson stuff, they're working in a 3D, you know, it's data the way I always thought data would be. You know, the way I think of data in my mind is not ones and zeros. But, you know, if I could go into something like that, that would be great. I'd, like, never leave my house.
I'd love to have an auto sunlight dead and jack into the matrix.
Already some are considering the philosophical implications of this medium. Never in the history of mankind has there been an alternate universe one could actually inhabit. Now that anyone can experience them, alternate universes are no longer the province of physicists, theologians, and supernaturalists. It is a matter of the creator and the creation.
It's an interaction between those two things which generates a third thing. It's the other. It's the other that has been talked about in psychoanalysis and psychology. The other, it's that other, the omnipresent thing.
The matrix is like an alternate dimension. The matrix is a metaphor for God. I mean, in a way it becomes, you know, it's the way, as it becomes conscious of itself, which is a very powerful thing.
The technology of virtual reality and these other radical technologies will certainly change our future in ways unforeseen. Freed from being an engine of labor, will the body again become the temple of the soul? Though frightening to some, for the cyberpunk generation, technology no longer represents a force of alienation, but rather a transcendental electronic reality.